the heart of Los Angeles during the final years of the Roaring Twenties, a child was born who would grow to carry a name that still shimmers across the imagination of people in every corner of the world. She entered the world as Norma Jeane Mortensen, and in that simple birth name, there was no sign of the myth she would later become, no suggestion that she would embody beauty, tragedy, resilience, and vulnerability in equal measure. Her early years were marked not by glamour but by instability. Her mother, Gladys, struggled with mental illness and financial insecurity, while her father was absent and never played a role in her childhood. As a small girl, Norma Jeane was passed between foster homes, relatives, and temporary guardians, never fully certain of where she belonged or who would care for her. The idea of family, safety, and continuity was something she desired but rarely experienced, and this lack of stability created the roots of the yearning she carried throughout her life. In those restless years, she found comfort in imagination, in daydreams, and the possibility that life could transform itself into something better. Even in her childhood photographs, there is a quality in her gaze that seems to reveal more than the ordinary. Her hair, still unbleached and a soft brown, framed a face that already held hints of the star she would become, though at that time she was only another child living under difficult circumstances in Depression-era California. Yet in her laughter and in her playful posing for a camera there was a sparkle, a glimpse of how she was learning even as a girl to communicate through expression. It would be years before the world caught sight of it, but the beginnings of Marilyn Monroe, as magnetic presence were present long before her name changed or her image was molded by the Hollywood machine. When she was a teenager, she found herself married early, not because she was in love in any deep romantic sense, but because marriage provided a form of stability she desperately needed. With her husband serving in the military during the years of the Second World War, Norma Jeane found herself working in a munitions factory like many other young women of the time. One day while performing her duty, she was photographed by an army photographer, who immediately saw in her not only the spirit of the American home front, but also the striking visual presence of someone who seemed born for the camera. That moment became a turning point, for the photographs led to further modeling opportunities, and soon Norma Jeane was appearing in advertisements and magazine covers. Modeling opened a doorway to the possibility of a larger career. It also gave her an outlet for her natural instinct to perform, to pose, to create an aura that was both approachable and dazzling. She began to dream of acting, of moving from still images to motion pictures, and with determination she pursued screen tests and lessons. It was during these first encounters with Hollywood that she was given the name Marilyn Monroe. The choice of name was deliberate, for the industry understood the power of a carefully crafted persona. The name Marilyn carried echoes of glamour and mystery, while Monroe, borrowed from her mother's family, added an American familiarity. With this new identity, she began to shed Norma Jeane, though deep within her that original self never disappeared. The world might have seen Marilyn Monroe, but Norma Jeane remained alive inside her, a reminder of where she had come from and a quiet witness to the struggles she endured. As Marilyn Monroe, she took on small roles in films, often playing the attractive secretary, the chorus girl, or the fleeting romantic interest. In those brief appearances, her presence was undeniable. She radiated warmth and sexuality, but also an innocence that made her stand apart from other actresses who were shaped into cold glamour icons. Audiences responded instinctively to her blend of sensuality and vulnerability, a combination that seemed effortless but was in fact a delicate performance that she learned to refine. Executives in the film studios began to notice that even in a few minutes of screen time, she drew the eye away from established stars. Camera loved her, and more importantly, she seemed to love the camera back, as if a silent dialogue existed between them. Her breakthrough came with supporting roles that began to capture critical attention, and soon she was cast in more substantial parts. Hollywood of the post-war era was dominated by an appetite for both escapism and aspiration. Audiences wanted stars who embodied a dreamlike quality, who allowed them to imagine lives of excitement and desire beyond the ordinary. Marilyn Monroe fit perfectly into this desire. She became the blonde dream, a woman who seemed approachable in her sweetness yet impossibly alluring in her beauty. Her voice, breathy and soft, added to the aura, creating a sound that seemed to mix innocence with seduction in a way that no other actress could replicate. But behind the roles and the photo spreads, Marilyn wrestled with deep insecurities. She felt the weight of being typecast, of being seen as only a glamorous ornament rather than a serious actress. Determined to prove her artistic lessons and immersing herself in the methods of the actor's studio. She admired stage performers who commanded respect for their craft, and she longed to escape the image of the silly blonde that studios pushed upon her. This struggle defined much of her career, the tension between the public, as desire for the fantasy of Marilyn Monroe and her own hunger to be recognized as an artist, with depth and intelligence. As her fame grew, so too did the intensity of her personal life. Marriages, affairs, and friendships with some of the most prominent men of her era placed her constantly in the spotlight. Her relationship with the baseball legend Joe DiMaggio captured the imagination of fans, who saw in them the merging of two American icons, one from the world of sports and the other from the world of film. Yet the marriage was troubled, for Joe struggled with the public exposure and with the reality of Marilyn's powerful sexual image, an image that did not always align with his own sense of privacy and traditional values. Their union was passionate but stormy, filled with love yet scarred by clashes that eventually led to divorce. Still, their connection lingered in ways that even outlasted Marilyn's life, with Joe continuing to send roses to her grave long after her passing, a gesture that has become part of the myths surrounding them both. Later marriage to playwright Arthur Miller represented another attempt to find stability and understanding. With Miller, she sought intellectual companionship, believing that his literary mind might recognize and nurture the serious actress she longed to be. At times he did, but their relationship was also marked by disillusionment, creative differences, and the pressures of her fame. Marilyn carried the weight of expectations that no human being could easily satisfy. She was expected to be the glamorous star, the devoted wife, the perfect actress, and the flawless symbol of desire, all while managing her own fragile sense of self. The pressures of Hollywood, the constant scrutiny, and the struggle to reconcile her public image with her inner identity began to take a toll on her mental health. She experienced periods of depression, exhaustion, and dependence on medications that were often prescribed to freely in the entertainment industry of that era. Despite these struggles, she continued to deliver performances that remain iconic. Films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and Some Like It Hot showcased her comedic timing, her ability to embody charm with a hint of mischief, and her skill at balancing humor with sensuality. In these roles, she created moments that remain etched in popular culture, such as her playful rendition of a song about diamonds being a girl's best friend, or her comic brilliance in scenes that required her to play both naive and sharp at once. Marilyn Monroe became more than a movie star. She became a cultural symbol and imagery produced endlessly on posters, magazines, and advertisements. Her face, with its luminous smile and half-closed eyes, conveyed a mixture of joy and longing that spoke to something deeper in the human imagination. She was adored not only for her beauty, but for the contradictions she embodied. She seemed both powerful and fragile, both goddess and child, both dream and reality. That duality is what continues to make her compelling decades after her passing. At the same time, the very qualities that made her irresistible to the world also left her vulnerable. The demand to be perpetually available, perpetually radiant, perpetually perfect drained her. She longed for privacy, for authenticity, for the chance to live as Norma Jeane again without the crushing weight of the myth of Marilyn Monroe. Yet the two selves had become entwined so tightly that separation seemed impossible. She was trapped within the creation that had made her famous. In her final years, she battled professional setbacks, health problems, and personal loneliness. Yet even during those struggles, she delivered performances that revealed her evolving artistry. In The Misfits, a film written by Arthur Miller, she played a role that was closer to her real self than most of her previous characters, a woman searching for love and belonging in a harsh and unforgiving world. Critics who once dismissed her began to acknowledge the depth of her performance, recognizing the seriousness with which she approached her craft. That film stands as a testament to her resilience and to the truth that beneath the glamorous image, she was always striving to be taken seriously as an actress of substance. The end of her life came suddenly and tragically, shocking the world and cementing her place as an eternal figure of fascination. Found lifeless in her Los Angeles home at just 36 years old, she left behind unanswered questions, rumors, and myths. Some speculated about conspiracies involving powerful figures, others about accidental overdose, and still others about despair that had finally overwhelmed her. Precise truth may never be known, but what remains is the sense of a life cut short, of an artist and woman who carried both extraordinary light and profound darkness within her. Her death transformed her into a legend, Marilyn Monroe became not simply a star of her era, but an everlasting symbol of beauty, longing, fragility, and resilience. As writers and filmmakers have continued to draw inspiration from her, her image has been reinterpreted endlessly, from Andy Warhol's iconic pop art to countless biographies and films attempting to capture her essence. Yet no reproduction ever fully explains her, because she was not only an image but a human being of complexity, humor, intelligence, and pain. To this day, Marilyn Monroe represents more than the sum of her films and photographs. She represents the dream of transformation, the hope that one can rise from obscurity and hardship into greatness, while also standing as a reminder of the cost that such transformation can demand. Norma Jeane Mortensen, the little girl who longed for stability and love, still lingers behind the glamour. The world may have known Marilyn Monroe, but within her, Norma Jeane always lived. Quiet reminder that behind every icon there is a human heart beating, yearning, and fragile.